And welcome to New Londinium 1910. As you may or may not remember, depending on whether you watched, our last episode was involved in actually building this manor house finally, and we didn't quite get the bottom level of the basement done. So now my goal for today is to see if we can get the bottom level completed, and or at least mostly completed, and get the top level done, or at least sealed properly, so we have a it's all enclosed. I expect that there will be some detail work to do on the inside before it's truly done, and even then that's just the interior. We still have to work out the storage system, but one thing at a time. We're finally making some progress. Speaking of progress, I realized, or I thought about this, in that I have all the bits I need to start expanding my backpacks, so this should take care of the storage problem for a bit. Sophisticated backpacks use ingots for upgrades of the backpack themselves, which give you more slots and upgrade slots, and then there are upgrades, specific upgrades that you can plant in those upgrade slots, and my favorites are the ones that let you hold multiple stacks on each stack, if that makes sense. So instead of holding one stack of, say, cobblestone in at a backpack slot, you can hold with the copper upgrade, you can hold 1.5 stacks. And I think if you use go all the way up to a netherite upgrade, oh gosh, if I remember correctly, it was something like 16 stacks, and then it gets crazy because then you could use more upgrades that multiply the upgrades. So if you were able to get up to another netherite stack, I think it was 16 times 16 stacks. That's a lot of stacks. And I think you can have up to, I don't know how many upgrades you can have together, but it gets crazy. On the flip side, though, if you get that far, well, you deserve it, because to make a stack upgrade requires 8 blocks of the metal involved. So if you're talking about netherite, you would need 8 blocks to get to a netherite upgrade. Of course, that meant you had to upgrade 8 blocks of iron to get there, and before that 8 blocks of gold, and so it's pretty expensive. But I actually did one of my deep dive videos on sophisticated backpacks, and when you get to that point, if you've been playing the game and you have those types of resources, with the upgrades in the backpack and such, you can essentially not need a base, right? Because the backpack would actually let you carry most crafting machines as upgrades in the backpack. Plus, the backpack itself would hold an insane amount of stuff. And for most people, that's pretty much what you use a base for, right? So, in practical terms, you are a mobile and independent operation. So, but I do plan to take advantage of some of that, but I don't plan to go to that extreme. I mean, the whole name of the game, the whole name of the scenario is what will essentially be one mega base. And even before we get to the mega base, we got this base. So, that's a lot of bases. But it's a pretty powerful mod. I'll tell you that, right? And there is sophisticated storage, which essentially is very much like the backpacks, but they're for regular storage containers, right? And so if you have a chance, go ahead and take a look. It's interesting. I still prefer storage drawers for base storage, but hey, these are big enough that now I can use my knife, just like I did with those mature wheat. Is that rain? It sounds like rain. I don't see any rain. Anyway, so now we're producing some straw, so we can use the straw and all the bark that we get from our lumberjacking and the bone meal that we've been building up, and that will let us start creating rich dirt. Well, actually it'll create compost, which we have to let cure outside for a bit, and then that'll get us rich dirt, and then we can start amplifying our farming efforts, and it's going to be good. But at the moment, I don't have storage for all this hyper aggressive farming, so I'm going to put most of it in the composter, because we could use that bone meal, and not just bone meal for making rich dirt, but bone meal for making white dye, which we're going to need for white concrete, which we're going to need for the upper levels of the manor house. So there is a method to my madness, and we're just moving along here. And there you go. 16 organic compost. Put this other stuff back. And clear up a space up here. The compost, it's not going to work, or it's not going to work quickly if you hide it away someplace. So you put these big, ugly, brown, blotchy blocks up here, and then they will eventually turn into deep, rich, dark brown blocks, and things will be awesome. Now, again, if you're returning from last episode, you'll remember that I started the episode by harvesting a mess of dark oak. And by the end of the episode, we've used almost all of it. So here we are again, and I actually think I have more trees to harvest than last time, and I'm confidently predicting that we will be out of trees at or near the end of the episode. And that's just the way it is. I mean, this thing uses a lot of wood. And ironically, most of the wood it uses in plank form, which is actually, a more efficient use of the wood. If I'm just throwing open logs up there or stripped logs, well, then I'll go through the wood crazy fast. But I'm usually using planks or using the planks in the architect cutter, which saves me even more, because one block of planks used in the architect cutter will give me 4 other blocks. Right, so, but at the moment we're emulating an older form of architecture, which was very wood heavy, so to speak. And I'm gonna need some axes. I'd like to make more axes, but I don't have sticks. I'm sure I'll get sticks in a minute. So dark oak, as I know I've mentioned before, as you may or may not remember, dark oak is going to suit the general vibe of our builds pretty well. right? If you're familiar with the Victorian and Edwardian eras of like English history, and even to a certain extent American history, dark wood furniture, whether it was dark wood or painted and or varnished to be dark, that was a big piece of the era. And it gave things a very distinguished look. And even to this day, right, if you go into like a lot of old-fashioned courtrooms or manor houses with like a big Victorian library, the furniture is dark wood, right? Dark lacquered wood. Very much a key element of the era. So dark oak is basically going to get us there. The only wood that would be even better is available in this world someplace, in the nether, called hellbark, which gives us this dark gray, not quite black. And that stuff is awesome. I mean, for builds, it's awesome. Especially like making industrial or Victorian era stuff, combined with a mod like, say, Macaw's doors, Macaw's windows, right? It's awesome. But for now, I'm going to have to get as close as I can get with dark oak. And even before I get that far, I'm just building with this stuff right now. And like I said, I'm going to use a lot of it, so. A lot of birds out today. Almost sounds like a jungle. And I said something, so most of them left. Okay. Interesting. I've been thinking about this terraced area. I mean, yeah, we're growing trees here for now, and we'll continue growing trees here for now, but soon I will get out of the wholesale tree growing business, and then we can convert this area, which is it's already set up for farming. But I'm thinking I might want to shift things over a little bit. I might want to build like a little retaining wall, maybe some stairs between the two levels of the garden. Because now that we're actually building, I'm feeling a little more comfortable about progress and starting to relax and starting to kind of feel the vibe. And that's what I play this game for. And part of it is, and part of the reason I think I've been a builder ever since even before computer games, right, is I think in my imagination, I have ideas for worlds where I would like to live or explore or just be. And when I'm, when I'm in the mode, when I'm in the groove, that's kind of like what I do, right? That's what this is all about. That's where that desire, that burning desire to build comes from, is because I would really like to build a place and then move in and check it out. It's one of the things that I really enjoyed about Dark Age of Camelot. Now, Dark Age of Camelot is an MMO, but it was never even remotely as popular as World of Warcraft. But it's a whole different conversation, maybe multiple conversations about why that is and everything. But one of the things that I remembered about it is that they had 3 factions, right? It was kind of based off historical myths. So you had 3 factions that were kind of at a war, ongoing war against each other. So you had the Albion, forces of Albion, which was essentially the English or British. Well, it was British because they had Scotsmen. And then you had the Hibernians, which were basically the Irish. And then you had the Norse, who were the Norse. So, you know, where I was headed with this is that the Norse capital, Jotunheim, was a big, muddy place with a little bit of elevation change, but not really all that interesting. And the British capital was at Camelot, which was a castle. But the way they set it up is it was all pretty much all on the same level. Very flat, so not that interesting. But the Hibernians, the Irish, their capital was set in the Fey city of Tir na Nog. And it was much more interesting because they had hills incorporated into their capital city. You know, some of these hills were somewhat substantial, and so you had this cool dynamic with these kind of twisty, turny, medieval type paved pathways that wound their way up and down through narrow streets to, you know, various buildings. And these buildings were, you know, because these are supposed to be elves, so that they were a cross between what you can think of as like traditional realistic or historical medieval architecture and kind of like a Lord of the Rings elves, right? And so they had this pretty cool vibe, right? I mean, it was comfortable and it was a little bit fantastic, but at the same token, it was homey and cozy. I liked it. I liked it a lot, right? I mean, I that was my favorite capital to visit. And to a certain extent, even their the smaller towns and villages, they were generally flat. But I had a much cozier, comfortable feeling when I went and visited their little towns and villages, right? I mean, it felt like a place that you would want to stop and have a pint and throw some darts and, you know, socialize. While the Norse place, you know, you definitely kind of felt like it was cold and it was rough and tumble. And yeah, you can go in and have a cup of grog, but that's because that's what you need to, like, you know, stay warm and get through the day. And the Albion sector, the British, it was just, you know, except for some flute and mandolin music, it was just your typical RPG tavern type experience. It really didn't get that cozy vibe from it. So, but I really did enjoy that game system, and that game system was what they called RVR, Realm versus Realm. So it got even cooler because each of the three had their world, which was their home space, right? So, you know, the British Isles, Ireland, and Norway. But then they had an area you could go to which were called the frontiers, which were extensions of those three places, plus water in between. And the idea would be that if the Norse wanted to go raiding the British, they would go through the gates into their section of the frontier where they could be ambushed by the others. But then they would set up these big longboats, hop in the longboats, sail to either Britain or Ireland, disembark, set up their siege engines, and then start capturing castles and settlements in one of the other kingdoms, right? And then, of course, people from those kingdoms would be out on the watch, and they would, you know, defend. And it was pretty awesome. There was a whole siege system. So, guys would bring, everybody would fill their inventory with siege equipment parts. And then once they got there, siege captains would basically collect the parts from people, start building siege engines, catapults, trebuchets, battering rams. People were up on the walls shooting down on you. We were trying to shoot up at them. And of course, there's a fantasy vibe, right? It's not historical warfare as it was, but rather historical and mythological warfare as they envisioned it. So you got wizards and necromancers and all sorts of crazy stuff and fantasy races. And I gotta tell you, that was some of the most fun I ever had in an MMO. And it never caught on though, right? Because it did catch on for some, but it didn't have the explosive growth or popularity of WoW, World of Warcraft. So, and I loved World of Warcraft too. I played that for ages and ages. Speaking of MMOs, I cut my teeth on Ultima Online, right? So that tells you how old I am. But we were playing Ultima Online, and that was one of the first MMOs, and they hadn't figured a lot of stuff out yet, so it definitely had some problems that I think eventually killed the game. Part of it was they didn't have a lot of systematic safeguards in place to protect people and their stuff. So you kind of had a Lord of the Flies game environment where within towns you were mostly safe because they had computer-controlled guards that could beat the living snot out of people. But even then, you still got your pockets picked a lot, or your boat stolen. But outside of the towns, yeah, it was completely Lord of the Flies. No government, buyer beware, traveler beware. And I remember you had all sorts of individuals and groups that were griefing. Then you started to have vigilante groups and individuals that were fighting the griefers. And then when things started to get safe, the individual and group vigilantes got bored and they became griefers, and the whole cycle repeats. So, yeah. And then after that one, the next one that Eric and I were playing a lot was Asheron's Call, right? That's we had just started at Microsoft, and so they were doing internal beta by employees, so we got to play beta a bit. But then when it went out, we played Asheron's Call a lot when it was in production. And then Dark Age of Camelot, and then WoW came out. We interestingly enough, we never played EverQuest 1 until years later when EverQuest 2 came out. We both started playing EverQuest 2, and then Eric was like, "Hey, let me check out EverQuest 1." So he was playing EverQuest 1 like 10 years after it came out. But yeah, so I've done the MMO thing a lot. Got bit by the bug real hard, and there you go. But the thing about me and MMOs, or pretty much any type of game system, but the MMOs I'm particularly bad at, is this idea. Oops, I keep talking and I don't realize what I'm doing. But anyway, MMOs. So Eric and I were an interesting contrast in styles. Eric has always been the type of guy who is achievement based, very competitive. So when we would start a new MMO, his thing was how fast could he hit maximum level. And even in WoW, he got to a point where it was just hours, right? He could hit maximum level. I don't work that way. I am highly competitive, and I am somewhat achievement driven, but more to the point for things like role-playing games and stuff. I mean, they went to the trouble to build this big, complex world with a lot of depth and all these different races and spells and classes and stuff. Well, I want to take it all in, right? I mean, I guess the best description for me would be I'm like in MMOs, I'm like a virtual tourist. And so for me, it's about I want to explore everything the game has to offer. And to give you an example, when Eric's first character in WoW hit level 60, I had actually created 2 accounts so that I could have every possible... so I had a character of each race and each gender of each race and each class for both the Alliance and the Horde. And I had, and for each of them, I had figured out, I had a little chart set up, and I mapped out which ones were going to be what type of crafters or skills, and so I was, with these 2 accounts, the characters distributed over these accounts, I was to explore every possible aspect of the game, right? I mean, I had Horde and Alliance. I was going to be able to do all the different crafting. I had all the different classes. I'd be able to use all the different spells. It's just that I was bouncing around from character to character. And obviously, when you go that route, it goes slow. But I was just digging it. But you see, by his 3rd or 4th level 60 character, he's done with the game for a while, right? He's ready to take a break, and I'm now up to like level 15 on all my characters. And it's just like, I'm just starting to get the groove. And of course, the way it has always traditionally worked with the 2 of us, or it did, he would... he'd get bored, he'd move on to the next thing, and then he'd try to drag me into it. And as often as not, he was very successful at that. So I would abandon whatever progress I had made, and I'd go to the next thing, and we do it all over again. I did it with, Dark Age of Camelot and pretty much every game we played. Yeah, so there you go. But you see, that's one of the reasons why I liked, Elder Scrolls, but also Minecraft, is that, this is when we started seeing the idea of an open world where I'm not being shuttled from cutscene to cutscene, but rather, hey, here it is, knock yourself out. If you have any questions, we're right here. And it's like, ooh, thank you very much, because I like to travel. In fact, a big piece of me liking to travel is why I joined the Air Force, because I also, besides the fact that I was getting money for college, I also realized at that time that if I wanted to see Europe, and I knew that, going to Europe from the United States is expensive, right? And it's expensive, but you're going on a tour, right? Or a package or something. And so you get 2 weeks, and you're not going to be able to see it all in 2 weeks. You won't even see most of it, or even enough of it. So I figured that if I joined the Air Force, and this is at the end of the Cold War, so we had bases all over the place in Europe, I figured I would stand a very good chance of getting stationed in Europe or Japan. I was happy to go to Japan too. And if I'm stationed there, I'm there for years, right? At least 2 years, maybe longer. And I could then, hang out with the locals, learn what it is to really live there, what they like, what they don't like, have time to see all the sites in depth, and be there when the tourists aren't there and all this stuff. And so that's the type of traveler I am. I guess it pops up in these games too, right? Or the type of person I am. And so that's a major driving role about why I joined the Air Force. So, and I liked it because I did eventually get stationed to Britain, England specifically, and I really, really enjoyed it. I was at RF Greenham Common, which, if you look that up, that's where they had a lot of controversy because they stationed a bunch of nuclear missiles there, which I can understand people being nervous about. Imagine how I felt. I was living on the base with them a few hundred yards from my room. But, but it's or on the edge of the town of Newbury, which is in Berkshire, which is, easy commuting distance to London, right? So I remember on many weekends, we would grab, at the time, the train system was run by British Rail, and they had what they call a capital card. And the capital card would basically be, at the time it was like £8, but it was good for the whole day. It was my train ticket to and from London, which, depending on, like, if I caught a local, it was like an hour. If I caught an express, it would be like, 20 minutes. And then once I'm in London, that thing was good on the underground. So I could zip around the underground using my train ticket all day. And so that's what we would do, is we'd occasionally go to London for a day. And of course, that meant that, like, we hit the Tower Record store or the Virgin Record store, because they had all the best selection of CDs. And we'd go to the game stores and the computer game stores, and we'd get something to eat. And then we probably hit a tourist site. But it was nice because you really got to relax, right? If you go someplace on a tour, oh my gosh, it's rushed, and you get to, it's more like you get to see the highlight reel. And I really learned the pain of this with our trip to Ireland. Living in the United Kingdom, I figure, well, hell, it's easy to get to Ireland from here. So why not? And Morale, Welfare and Recreation, MWR, they had a tour that they set up, and they said, oh, here's all these places in Ireland. We'll go on a tour, and over the course of 3 or 4 days, you can hit all these places. And of course, because I could point out Ireland on a map, and that was about it, I'm like, oh, well, that's awesome. I've always wanted to go all those places. Well, pointing Ireland out on a map is a little bit different than actually knowing anything about the island or where stuff's located. And it turns out that, when you look at Ireland compared to everything else, it's like, well, that's a pretty small place, but you're there trying to get from one side of it to the other. It's a lot bigger than you think. And our MWR trip meant that basically we spent 3/4 of our time during the day on the bus. Most of our stops we'd stop there at 4 p.m, and after being on the bus all day, like, okay, here we are, knock yourself out, and we'll see you again at 8 a.m. The only place we stopped overnight and stayed for an entire day was Dublin, and a city like Dublin, they're there for like a day and a half total. That doesn't even scratch the surface. I mean, I lived an hour away from London, and I went like 2 or 3 dozen times, and I barely scratched the surface of that one. So, but it was fun. It was a remarkable time of my life, and I credit that time with a lot of personal growth and learning, and it was neat. I'm so thankful that I got the opportunity to check it out. So we're now on the second level of the basement. First level's fully enclosed. The ceiling's not done, but we'll get to that. And I still have to think about how I want to set up storage. So I confirmed. I went and it's been a few months since I had built a storage controller and the secondary controller for storage drawers. I was worried they would need something like amethyst or something to be made, but no, just diamonds and gold. So I only need I think 1 diamond to build the main controller, which should cover this entire property. And then the sub-controllers just need gold, which it's not in super plentiful supply, but it's in plentiful enough supply that we should be able to wire the entire manor house here with a single storage system. And what that means is, if you were watching my Griffin Manor series, we completed the storage level way down deep, and there was a system where on any level right by the elevator there was a couple of cabinets. One was a red cabinet, one was a dark oak cabinet. If you put food into the red cabinet, then it was transported all the way up into the kitchen area where there was storage for food and edibles. And if you put it in the dark oak cabinet, then it went down to the main storage where it was sorted and placed into the proper storage drawer. And so that meant, if you want to go get something in particular, well, you had to know where it was, and I, placed everything in a particular place that's related. So that wasn't a big problem. But the big thing that kills people is like when you go adventuring and your backpack's completely full of all sorts of random stuff, then running around putting stuff away where it actually goes is maddening, right? Well, I didn't have to worry about that. I would just basically empty my pockets into that cabinet, and then hoppers and controllers and storage drawer trim would take it over from there. Things would go where they need to go. That is awesome. And especially awesome because, modded Minecraft has over 440 blocks and items. And modded Minecraft has an insane number of items. I mean, some of these mods by themselves have close to 1,000 or more. So, having the ability to automate your storage drop-off like that is pretty awesome. So, I think the point in all this is that's what I'm going to set up here. Just haven't thought the exact details out yet, but like, for example, where am I going to put the drop-off spot? And it might be part of the central stairway, or I don't know, but I'll figure it out. But it will be very nice to have the ability to just empty your pockets and press on. Okay, up here we will go ahead and do basically what we did for the bottom level. And I mean, I'm going to use it for pretty much the same purpose. Not much point in coming up with a new design. It's not like the Parish fashion show where they have you tie on a hat that looks like a duck because it's high fashion and it's just different. Nope. We do like things to look good, but in the end they gotta be practical too. Looking at the clock, I'm already 2/3 of the way through this episode. Man, does the time fly when I'm doing these videos, right? I'd blame you for getting me talking, but it's just me getting me talking. So it's my fault. You go into grandpa mode and boom. Kid just graduated college. So. It will be nice to not have to climb up and down this ladder anymore. Start using stairs like a civilized human being. Now, one of the things that I'm going to have to do soon, I don't plan to do it this episode, but I might have to do it next episode or the episode after. So I'm going to have to go on a supply run, and in this case, the key ingredients I'm going to need are sand and gravel, because I'm going to be making a lot of concrete. I'm going to need a lot of concrete and use this sand and gravel. So that means probably a run out to the beach. Oops. Can't close this one up. Now, these rafters are not the end of it, right? I mean, I still got torches on the floor, so I will want to fill, you know, these rafters are creating 3x3 blocks, and I will want to add something to the ceiling instead of just the bare dark oak planks. Got some ideas between chipped and Londinium ornamentum. We get some nice designs up there with a nice 3D texture. It'll be great. It'll look authentic and interesting. And then we can actually start thinking about a more permanent solution for lighting too. Chances are that will come from Londinium ornamentum, which will require clay and wood and cobblestone, but you'll see how that works. I might instead, I do have additional lights mod, and that gives me some pretty decent looking lanterns that are very inexpensive, so I may go that route. And as you remember, I explained that these blocks, you have to be careful. You gotta face them straight up and down, or place them straight up and down. Otherwise, you can put them on sideways, and it doesn't look right. So. Guess I'm out. Yep. So sometimes, I don't know which mod's causing it, but sometimes I have mods that let me automatically replenish what I'm holding in my hand when I use them up, like say tools, weapons, or blocks. Sometimes it fails to put a new stack or tool in my hand, and sometimes when that happens, if you go looking, you know you have a full stack, but you can't find it in your inventory, and then you start moving stuff into what appear to be empty inventory slots, only to find that one of them was holding an invisible stack of whatever it is that you were looking for, and now it's visible, and now the game recognizes that you can use it. And that's what I was just looking for. But it turns out that no, I did use all the blocks. So, look at that. We're up high enough that I don't have to climb the ladder even. I can just run up and over the edge. Now here, I don't have the head space to stand on top of blocks and look down, so I'm going to stand as close as I can without getting in the way, and I can place the blocks down that way. But it's slower going, so now that I'm out in the sunshine, do it this way. One of the things I'm still trying to figure out is what I will do with the space in the upper floors of the manor house. So what I'm saying here is as a base, right, this basement is really why I'm here. It's the basement. It's got the storage. It has processing stuff. You know, this is really the headquarters for getting the work done for the actual building. But the upper floors, starting with the ground floor and the upstairs, those are, well, they're not really necessary in terms of the project. Except maybe setting up an enchantment room, but and a kitchen. But really, they're more along the lines of functional spaces that are part of what make this world a living, breathing world. In other words, setting up a bedroom. Well, all you need is a bed. I mean, you just need a bed to make the night go away. But you need a bed, and you set up a wardrobe, rugs, fireplace. You know, these are all things that you don't, you know, this isn't a hardcore speed run. I'm building a living, breathing world. So those rooms would have maybe a very specific and or very limited purpose, but I'm gonna go crazy and do more with it. So now the kitchen's functional because I need food, and the enchantment room, right, would be functional because I need to enchant stuff. But there's, like, what do you do with the other living spaces, right? And in this era, you might have like a parlor or a living room, multiple bedrooms, a small library, or something like that. So gotta think through what I want to put up there, and you know, along a similar line is while I'm planning for New Londinium, which is a big city project, right? I mean, there's a lot to do before we build a single building, right? Because the city's so massive, and when I say infrastructure, I am only partially talking about water and stuff like that. I'm really talking about the fact of the walls, the supports, ceilings, all that jazz. There's a massive amount of that that has to happen. And hold on, wrong bricks. So one of the key elements there is, you know, I think it's a massive amount of bricks. So where am I going to get that material? Now, traditionally, when it comes to needing a massive amount of material, it's something that I can reproduce. So wood and stone, cobblestone or regular stone, right? I can reproduce both of those. So, but first of all, I'm kind of tired of using those. Second of all, wood's not going to work in a city this size. It's got to be some type of masonry. Oops, not enough headspace. And along those lines, we're doing the steampunk thing, right? So it's a darker world. I mean, not darker as in like mood, maybe indirectly, but going back to the whole thing with the dark wood, right? They colored everything dark. They use a lot of dark colors, partly because it helped hide the soot, right? Everything, everything's running on steam. Steam's generated by coal. Coal produces soot, ash. So, dark colors help blend in the dirt. And that would be the case here. So when you're talking about walls and, infrastructure like, supports and levels and streets, I think deep slate would much better suit that than, say, regular stone, right? Which is kind of light and, happy. So that's a massive amount of deep slate. Now, normally I would have to generate a massive amount of deep slate by digging, below level 0. And yes, I am going to do a massive amount of digging down there anyway, but there's a mod out there called Create Cobblestone, and it gives you a number of create-based stone generators, and it's specifically developed because there's a lot of moving parts to the way you would normally create a stone generator in Create can cause a lot of lag if you start having a lot of them, or generating a lot of stone. And so this mod actually helps simplify it a bit to basically relieve stress on your system. And so I truly appreciate that. But as an added bonus, they give you the ability to create a few more stone types, and with a special add-on data pack from the same author, you can create deep slate. So I think one of the things I want to do in here is I want to set up. Oops. I want to set up a cobblestone generator and a deep slate generator, maybe others, but those are the two main ones. And that would help me build the infrastructure for new Londinium. Combine that with, eventually, if we can get enough crying obsidian, a properly enchanted pickaxe that I can easily heal or mend. And man, I'd be able to work wonders on that infrastructure, because I'm really excited about the project, but I am a little daunted by just building the structure on which the buildings, the streets, the trains, the monorails, shops, everything will exist, right? You're talking about a structure that I plan to make fairly round, but still, it's over 1 kilometer across. And it reaches both down to bedrock and up high into the sky. That's a massive amount of blocks. Even if nothing moves, there's nothing tricky or animated in that is still a massive number of blocks. And of course, I do plan to have a lot of working bits and people in there. And if you want to see somebody who is inspiring along those lines, I would tell you to do a search on YouTube for Imagineer Dave. Right now, he's really wound up with trains specifically. That's his jam, and it's really good stuff. Really impressive. But the size of his world that he's built and the massive amount of scripting and automated bits for the trains and stuff kind of helps set a benchmark for me against what I can probably expect from new Londinium, right? Because I think what I'm after is going to be that size or slightly larger. And in some ways it's more detailed, in some ways it's less detailed. So, but he has a really impressive world. And if he occasionally does live streams for like 2 or 3 hours and does tours of his world. So if you can find one of those, follow him around. It's beautiful work. And in fact, his main world is based basically like end of the 19th century, early 20th century England. And so the architecture, the trains and stuff, there's a lot of stuff there that I'm going to rip off or use for heavily for inspiration in this world. So there's another reason you might want to check that out. Kind of give you a sample of what I'm thinking about. Okay, so the walls are done. Now we just need to roof this baby over. And I'm coming up on time, so that means two things. One, it's apparently going to rain very soon. That's just how it works in this world. And two, I really want to get this thing sealed, right? I want to not have a hole in the ground anymore. So I think I'm going to push through with this episode until I get that done. I mean, it will probably run over time a little bit, but that's my goal. Okay, I have officially deprecated the ladder, and we are now officially able to use the stairs. So no more climbing up and down. I forgot about that. I went to mine one block and they all went. It's like, huh, oh, this is my uber duber super pick. Yeah, I thought I made a mistake, but it is, it looks like a dirt ceiling, because it is a dirt ceiling at the moment, but this is, this part of the basement will go under the entryway into the house. But when we do that detailed ceiling work with slabs and panels, it will cover that up and look like the rest of the ceilings. And of course it fell. Anyhow, and here's the thing, right? We're now at a point with Greifenhorst and New Londinium that things are happening, right? I mean, I'm making forward progress. I'm excited. I'm excited to jump in and work on each one of these episodes because now it's easy to see the potential. It's easy to see the progress. Now I'm doing the stuff I wanted to do in the first place. And I'm about, well, I mean, I've already scheduled for release the, episode 0 of my post-apocalyptic series, right? From the Rubble. And I'm excited about getting that started because that's like a totally different spin on this stuff yet again, right? For one thing, it's even more technology driven than this one. And that is going to use the main technologies will be the Create mod, the Thermal series, and Refined storage. So that's... Why did I do it that way? Anyway... It is going to be a bit different from what I've done in the past. So I'm looking forward to that. But these go here? Yes. That's the standard. Anyway, so I'm excited about that, right? And then, of course, we have the Mostly Satisfactory series, which is me stumbling and bumbling my way through the Satisfactory game. But it is a lot of fun. And, you know, I don't think I would do a series like that for, like, say, Factorio, because, you know, you got the aliens and they're gonna come a knocking, and it's a bit, besides the fact that it's stressful and that's not really what I'm after, it's kind of hard to have fun doing a video like that, right? Because here I can go into grandfather mode and I can just, you know, shoot the breeze and do my thing and just totally chill. And if you're watching this and you haven't cut me off already, then there's, to some degree, you're okay with that. So, you know, this is the magic combination. But in Factorio or games like that wouldn't work. But, you know, Satisfactory is like that. It's very much like that. And that's one of the things I like about it. It's also forgiving, so I could screw up royally. No big deal. You can just pick your stuff up and move it someplace else. Well, that incredible forgiving element is really awesome as far as I'm concerned in terms of game design, because in an open-ended sandbox typey world, the name of the game is creativity. The name of the game is, you know, give me a big art construction set. Don't put limits on what I do. And that really helps, right? You can't get punished for making a mistake and deciding to do it a different way later. I just want to take a gander at what this looks like. That'll probably be the thumbnail. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. It'll look nicer, but this is certainly better than camping out under the stars. Well, I mean, I like camping, but it certainly looks better than sleeping bag out under the stars. And you remember what I said about using up a lot of wood? I'm running out. Right? I mean, I had hundreds, and now I have 150. Right now, like I said, the goal is to seal up this top level, so that's going to use planks, but and you know, that's probably where I'll end the episode. But after that, I got to go through and do all the rafter work on the ceiling, and that's all stripped logs, so I will easily blow through what I have now. I'll have to do another run of tree harvesting. Question is, will I be able to get this done before I gotta go sleep? In real life and in the game. Okay, the last stack. As much as I try not to do that, I almost always do that. Leave my axe on the cutting board. It's apparently darker than I thought, so... And it didn't rain on me, which is surprising. And... I'm looking at the pattern I chose for the basement walls. I mean, I think it certainly works for the basement walls, but I think I'm going to go with something slightly more complex for the walls above ground. No reason, just because I can. And hold on. This is all going to be covered by dirt. I don't need these here. This will be where the windmill and the barn and the livestock pens will be. But this will be part of the main house too. So go ahead and add these. This lines up. So now I just need to fill it in. Should definitely have enough planks, or enough capacity for planks. So now, aside from finishing this house, like I said, I really do need to find some more crying obsidian. So right now I'm enjoying this too much to stop building, but some point in the very near future I'll need to take a break from building to go look for that obsidian, crying obsidian, and properly start enchanting stuff. And when that happens, the ability to build or defend myself will go up radically, and the momentum we're building will pick up even more. And that's good, because this is what I've been dying for. This is why I do this. What? Where? I could use lime seeds and the melon seeds, but not right this second. I do like to check wandering traders. Most of what they sell is not useful to me, but every once in a while they have something that might be hard for me to find. Like right now, cactus would be a good one, because I don't know if there's any deserts nearby. I don't think there are, so cactus is useful, and that would be good. Another one that would be useful for a similar reason would be bamboo. I like bamboo, but as far as I know, there's no jungles around here. I mean, it's not like I canvassed the entire area extensively, but this seems pretty temperate, and I'm using large biomes, so large temperate biomes are going to border other large temperate biomes, and it might be a while before we get to the warmer biomes where you're likely to find jungle. And with the jungle, you're likely to find bamboo. So wandering trader selling bamboo would be nice. Also, with the mods I have, you can find apple trees and dark cherry trees, both of which bear fruit. You can find them in the environment, but they're really rare. You're much more likely to find them from one of the Let's Do traders that comes by occasionally. They're pricey, but worth it. And don't get me started that whole conversation about why aren't there apple trees in Minecraft, and why do the few apples you do get come out of oak trees? Same reason that sand falls and rocks don't. So it just is. Early design decisions, or things that were probably not coded, were expected to, that just became a part of the culture and the game. And now, if you quote unquote fix those, half the people will say yay, and the other half will scream bloody murder. So there's no, when it comes down to, you're in trouble either way. Well, the status quo is a cheap and easy alternative. So we are in the holiday season in real life, and so if you didn't watch my Christmas card video, then please do. But if you have no intention of ever watching it, then let me just wish you and yours a very warm and happy holiday season, and a joyous new year. And with that, we'll take a gander at my handiwork. And I hope that this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. Cheers.